So welcome to Cake Decorating 101. Start at the very basics. And first of all, we're going to talk about being successful in decorating cakes, frosting cakes and decorating cakes. And I think the number one is you have to have the right tools to accomplish what you want, and then you have to have patience. And it takes lots of practice, hence the patience. Yes, and so today I have a little cake here. And number one, you want to have the cake cool before you try to stack it and frost in between the layers. And number two, you're going to have to maybe cut the tops off to make sure they're level, because you're going to take all this time and effort into making a cake and you want it to be level and pretty. You can do as many layers as you want, but the higher you go on your layers, the more chance you're going to have wobbly. And in that case, you could take a wooden dowel or a plastic straw and push it down through the middle, and that kind of stabilizes the cake from shifting and leaning. And so first thing, we're going to talk about a little bit about icing later. I have an icing recipe for you in your handout, and we're going to talk about icing consistency. But first I'm going to show you how important it is to crumb coat your cake. Have you ever tried to frost a cake and have the crumbs come through the frosting?
Yes.
Yes. So I've already crumb coated this cake. And you know, you can use any kind of a straight edge or a spatula. There are two different kinds of spatulas for cake decorating. One is called an offset spatula, and it has a crook in the neck right here. And the other is called straight spatula. It's just straight. And they're both good for different things. So just kind of a preference of what you like to use. You're good. And so during the crumb coat, you'll get that icing on there and you'll take most of it off. This one's kind of crusted a little bit, so it's kind of dry. But you don't want to leave a whole lot on there. You just want a nice film to seal in all those crumbs. And then you'll take your regular icing, put that icing on there. Plenty of icing. You want enough icing on there so that you can take part of it off as you're smoothing the cake. Some people like to put their frosting in a bag and, you know, swirl it all over the sides of the cake and then smooth it. I just learned how to just put it on there with a spatula and make sure you get plenty, so that when you smooth the outer layer, you don't see the cake through the frosting. How many of you have done this before?
I tried.
Yeah,
so fun.
My cake is moving a little bit. So you see I've got a nice generous layer of frosting on there. This frosting is actually, I made it earlier, it's actually dried out just a little bit, but I think it'll be okay. You want to have a different consistency of icing for different things that you're doing.
Which of these, thin, medium, or stiff, is best for doing this part of it?
I would say a medium for doing this basic frosting layer on here. Then you're going to need a straight edge. You could use almost anything, you know, as long as it's got a nice straight edge. And you're just going to bring that around the cake. It is a little bit on the dry side, so.
Debbie, how long have you been doing this?
A long time.
So when did you start?
Right after my husband and I were married. My mother made my wedding cake and said, I'm done, take my stuff. And so then I started, we lived in Rexburg at the time, and I took this little beginning couple of week class up at the college, and it just blossomed from there. And since then, I made hundreds of wedding cakes, hundreds of birthday cakes, but now I'm retired. Okay, so if there's a place that there's a hole in the frosting, or you know, you can go back and add some in the holes and then go back and smooth again. And you'll just take your spatula and smooth the top down. If your frosting has gotten a little bit dry, I'll show you a tip to smooth out that frosting. I'm getting hot water, and it takes a minute, so.
To smooth out the frosting because it's dry.
I'm going to dip my spatula in the hot water and warm up the spatula.
Oh. Okay, I would have never thought of that.
Dip it in there and then tap the water off. And if you want to walk up here and look, you can see what it does. See how nicely that's smoothing that out?
So cool.
When your spatula's
Smooth. Wow.
you want to be careful not to get too much water on it. But anyway, that's a good trick for learning how to smooth your frosting. And don't worry if your edges are not really up here on the corner and at the bottom really smooth, because if you're going to put a border on the cake, that will kind of hide that.
And just put it at the back.
Yes. I've done that many times with different cakes. Anyway,
Take a picture
So,
of the good side.
there you go, a nice smooth cake to decorate. And we talk a little bit about the consistency of the frosting. Is there a handout for Natalie? On that handout, and I will have these handouts for Michelle, so she can copy them and put them on that website as well.
Perfect.
There's an icing recipe there. Tells you what, you know, kind of this consistency for what you need when you're making flowers. You're going to want your icing consistency to be a little thicker, a little thinner for, you know, doing your crumb coat and your basic coat on your cake. What was I going to say? Oh, frosting. Have you ever made frosting, wanted white frosting and it hasn't been white?
Yeah.
Well, now there's a few things you can do. One is to use clear vanilla instead of brown vanilla. Another thing is, because when I make my frosting, I like to use butter. And that kind of turns it yellow. And use unsalted butter, by the way, in your frosting. You can buy white cake coloring. Did you know that? White frosting coloring. You can do that. Or if your frosting is not white, you can add a little touch of violet coloring to it and it turns it white. Yes.
Interior design.
Did you know that? So yeah, especially when I used to make wedding cakes, I used Crisco in my frosting instead of butter for that reason, because you wanted a white crisp frosting. But you can force it to be white with a little violet coloring. Do you have any questions so far?
No, I just love all these new tips I learned.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay.
Okay, and so we're going to talk about tips, and we're going to talk about practicing your borders and your things. This is a nice little practice chart if you have it. If you don't, piece of wax paper taped to your table, and I've had some handouts and sheets there with what tips to use and what they do and borders to practice on. So we're going to start by practicing some of the borders. When I first started cake decorating, there was no such thing as a disposable decorating bag. They are so amazing. I'm going to give you white frosting to practice your borders, and then I have colored frosting to do our cupcakes. So we'll practice some borders. cut the tip off of your bag just big enough so that the coupler won't slide through it. If you get it too big, you're going to be pushing that frosting through that bag, and all of a sudden it'll go poof. It'll all come out the end. This is the kit. I'll move that out of the way a little bit. It comes with, I'm not sure how many bags are in there. I think there are 2 decorating bags. There are 3 couplers and lots of tips. And on these tips in this kit, they don't have numbers on them, unfortunately. So in your handouts, I've included the tip and what it looks like, and you'll know what to do with it. Okay, on filling how many of you ever filled a bag with frosting before? It's sometimes it can be kind of messy and kind of hard to hand it. If you don't have anyone handy to hold your bag while you try and fill it, here's a good tip. Hold the edge of your bag over like that and drop it into a cup. And then it will stay still while you fill your bag.
I love it.
Did you girls hear that?
Yeah, the cup for the
Yes.
so it doesn't make a cup.
So it's easier to fill that way.
Smart. Okay, then how did you seal these up at the end?
Okay, you can use an elastic.
That's so cool.
You
But
can
this
use a
is-
twist tie. These are actually made for cake decorating.
Really?
These cute little, oh wait, can you see it? They're like an elastic with a little hook on the end. Just twist the end of your bag. Because if you don't, and you're not used to holding that bag, you've got icing coming out the back end of the bag.
This was so smart. And they can put them underneath.
Yes, you slide that underneath and
Do
practice.
you need one to show?
Video? Sure. Let's do that one first. So I have these sheets for everybody, practice sheets. I think you can see this. Take a piece of wax paper, tape it on 3 sides, and you can just slip that under there and practice on this wax paper. Then you can scrape your frosting off and use it again.
Let me show that.
All right. A couple of things about tips. Number 1, like I said, on the borders, number 1 is icing consistency has to be right. The angle, let's see. Oh, the angle of the bag. Sometimes you decorate with it straight up. Sometimes you decorate at a 45-degree angle. This is not quite right.
Does it say on these?
It does. It tells you which angle. And then 3rd is pressure control. You have to know when to push and when to let go of the pressure and when to pull up. Those are the 3 things. So this right here is a star tip, and it's called a shell border. And so basically you just want to get your hand on that bag and give it a lot of pressure, and then let the pressure up and pull. Pressure up, pull.
Look at that one.
Nice.
With this tip.
This one is so good.
Is that a star tip?
I think so.
Yep, that's it. And then once you get the hang of it, you can just,
Oh, and then you kind of connect them.
yeah, this is would be a shell border. And there are many, many different sizes of star tips. You could do a teeny tiny shell, or you can do a great big shell, anywhere in between. There are also different variations of shells. This is called a reverse shell.
Whoa. What the heck?
It's like you're going a different direction each time, right?
Yeah, you just switch back and forth.
That looks so easy. I know it's not.
Yeah, she makes that look easy, but I'm sure it's not easy.
You can also
It's
do
like
like
watching
a,
the professional ice skaters, right? You go, I can do that.
Yeah.
And then you get out there and you're like,
Yeah.
you can
I
also do
can't
like
do
a little puff shell where you like,
Okay.
just a little bit of pressure, then more pressure, then let up, then little, then big. Anyway, there's a lot of different techniques, just a lot of practice, yes. And the cool thing is when you're done, whoops, good thing that didn't have water in it. Just scrape it off. Put it back in here so you can refill your bag and practice some more. You'll notice on these practice pages, it will tell you the position of the bag, how you should hold it. This is a 45-degree angle. This one is straight up and down. And it will also show you, no, it doesn't show you what type of a tip to use. But I have a page included. Can I borrow that for a minute? That shows the different tips and what they're used for. This will also be in the handout.
What does that mom?
It stopped running for a
That's okay, I hurt my too. You're fine.
We have two different kind of leaf tips.
Flossing is so good.
I think this is the one that's shown in the handout. But there's also a leaf tip that looks like a, what would you say that looks like?
A V?
Kind of a V, just a little sharp on each, the two sides. And they make different kind of leaves, and I'll show you both. Do you have the leaf?
Don't the flossing?
okay, she's gonna demonstrate the leaf.
If you guys want to walk over here.
Actually, I can't watch. We'll go over here
Yeah.
and then get up.
Thanks. Okay. Oh, I thought it was your frosting.
I made one. Just kidding.
Oh.
Okay, this tip, can you, I don't know if you can see it all very good.
It's like that.
Oh.
Whoa.
You're going to want to hold it at a 45-degree angle as well. You start at the back and just release the pressure a little bit as you go.
That's so cool. I'm gonna miss
Sometimes it's hard to get the tip just right, but if it breaks up, you can always take a toothpick or something and push these little ends together.
Oh.
And you can make them straight, just like this. Or you can make them like this and kind of and make them kind of ruffled. Then I have another tip. And I'll let you hold that and look at it while I put this one on. It doesn't look like a leaf tip. Doesn't look like it would be a leaf, but it's my favorite leaf tip.
That looks like it's gonna stab my fingers.
Oh, is that the one you have on now?
Yeah, I put one on that now, and it's, you hold it so that the tips are at the top and the bottom.
Okay.
And then you
I
basically
totally thought it would have gone the other way.
then you basically do the same thing.
Oh my gosh, that's
Wait. That's so
those look so cute. That's good.
I hope that shows up on that white for this camera. And they make different sizes, so you can make big leaves and little leaves. Okay, so we'll let you guys go practice. Girls, we're going to switch out to this page, and we're going to learn to make this ruffle, because you might want to put those on your cupcakes.
I can't get up.
Oh yeah, you can just scrape them off.
I'm so sore.
So how
This
many
is
girls
a ruffle tip or a rose tip.
in our class? 9?
Whoa.
We might have 11 actually.
Really?
But we don't
Wait,
mind.
really?
No, there's a couple girls that we
We'll
don't.
see if we can get it so you can see it.
So this,
Are we just
You
like,
see the-
is this?
But if I get it closer, can you see?
So this is this okay, okay.
We're gonna try that next.
Yeah. Yeah. This is probably bad, but it's okay.
Okay. Let me just.
This tip also comes in like 3 or 4 different sizes. And I only have a few of the same sizes, so once again you'll have different sizes.
Use this. Oh. Are we in the video? Yeah, we're in the video. Good.
Do anybody see where I put the
There's a.
screw thing?
Oh.
Oh, here it is.
Yeah, one side.
Ta-da.
Oh, that one looks cool.
This tip is also held at a 45-degree angle. And if you'll notice, one side of the tip is narrow and one side is a little bit wider. And so you're going to hold the wide side against the cake or against your practice sheet, and the smaller side comes up, and that's what creates the ruffle.
Yes.
So here we are, 45-degree angle.
I don't, on my sheet there's like.
This frosting's drying a little bit.
Which one? Oh, Amy, okay.
It's just kind of a back and forth motion.
Okay.
Let me show you on the side of this cake. It looks different if you do it on the side of the cake.
Okay.
This is the same thing, just a little bit bigger.
Yeah, they're right next to us. Girls. Yeah, yeah. Are Amy?
They have
it's
3
her?
girls, yes.
Olivia. Okay.
Let's see, okay.
And then Georgia's in the class above, and then Fiona is in the class.
What the? Oh.
It's breaking a little bit on the edges, but that kind of gives you the idea. 45-degree angle,
Huge primary and like just a lot of.
and you have a ruffle.
Oh my gosh.
Whoa.
Make it look so easy.
Yeah.
There's one to try.
Oh, really?
That frosting's a little bit soft. We've been handling it so much.
It's not fun or fun. I took AP history and
all sorts of fun decorations.
This one's also 45-degree angle. So this would be straight. This is 45, right?
Okay.
The bigger end goes against the cake. The smaller end creates the ruffle.
your fat. The fat part goes on the bottom.
Pretty.
The part goes
Oh.
at the top. Then you just go up and down and up and down.
How long have you done
But you
this?
have to keep like even pressure and you also
About 40 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So how do you do this? This is the one you use to make a flower, too?
Yes.
Let's see. Look at this.
I found the only one I can do. What can I
I'm not
say?
sure this frosting might be too soft because it's been handled so much.
Oh, right.
But this is called a flower nail.
What's that?
Oh.
And you'd most likely want to put
So
a
you
piece
take
of
it?
wax paper on here so you can get it off easier, but I'll just show you.
Super tight. Super tight. Super
And I haven't done a rose for a long
Just
time,
a couple
so
of times.
It will be better
yeah,
than
we'll see.
You make everything look so easy.
You want to form kind of a, well, I want to use a different tip.
Well, it's not bad, but like.
No, we'll try this one.
Today.
Form kind of a cone.
Take it
And these edges are breaking, so I don't know.
and go.
Build a nice little cone.
Oh.
Then you're going to take
it's where it
45-degree
hurts.
angle
Yeah.
and make one
Hey, I'm
petal at
done.
a time.
Hey, but it's hard on.
That like makes me appreciate flowers on cake so much
Right?
more.
Okay.
The time that goes into it and
Yes.
Okay, I'm done.
talent.
I like how you just whip that up like it was
Yeah.
nothing.
No big
And it
deal.
looks so good.
Yeah. That's crazy.
That looks good.
That's crazy.
So fun. And then
Wow.
do you,
Oh, I haven't done it in so long. I don't know if it's gonna be good. Oh, the frosting
then you
is
can
too
scrape it
soft,
off. Okay.
and it's
Oh
perfect.
my gosh.
It's so
Cute.
beautiful.
So pretty.
That
Debbie,
is so
that's
fun.
amazing.
And there's so many kinds of flowers you can make.
great.
I prefer to make them out of royal icing because then they set up hard.
Okay.
What is this icing? Is
This is just the buttercream.
Okay.
And I've got recipes over there. I can make you some copies before
Sure.
everybody goes home. I
Yeah.
don't think I made quite enough copies. This has been really popular lately. You see lots of these.
It's this one?
It's this one right here
Instagram all day.
and here. You just start in the middle.
Yeah.
Oh.
Pretty.
That looks doable.
Uh-oh.
See
Yeah.
that? Straight up.
Looks
You guys did ones like that with the little
A little
star
tiny-
one.
little
We
star
totally
one,
do
yes.
this one.
easy.
So that's what this tip does.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna give you these tips over on that table and let you go to town on your cupcakes.
Okay, girl.
This one, these we can change out to different colors.
Okay.
This is a ruffle tip, a leaf tip, and a star tip.
Okay. Thank you. Want me to take them over?
So some of these were a little overbaked. I'm taking this.
And you, take, they can look at those if they want.
So if you mess up, don't